whatever your wound might be, whatever woundedness might come to your mind right now, a wound, when we've been hurt by somebody or we've been hurt by something, it's like somebody has taken a plow into our heart and has turned up the soil in our heart. And it's very painful, and it opens up our heart for seeds of lies to be planted or seeds of truth to be planted. And beside this furrow, beside this trough that has been dug in our heart, stands two farmers. One is the father of lies, the devil, the enemy, who wants to plant seeds of lies into our heart. And the other is the Holy Spirit, who John 16 describes as the Spirit of truth. Think about it. Into those wounded areas of your life, the devil begins to tell lies. On either side of the wound, he begins to tell lies. Now here's the thing, neurobiologically, when something bad happens to us, when trauma happens or we experience grief and we experience loss, our brain needs to tell a coherent story about what happened. And that's often what's so hard when we've gone through trauma, is we can't pull together the reasons why or make any sense of the story that we've just experienced. And our brains are trying to, but we need a coherent story in order to deal with the pain. And the strategy of the enemy, hear this, the strategy of the enemy is, I am going to help you interpret that story by telling you lies that feel like they're true. Are you with me? Into that wound, the enemy, in his deceit and in his wicked wisdom, comes and says, I want you to interpret the story in light of the story I'm about to tell you. And usually, they sound something like this. See if they sound familiar to you. In that wound, it's usually, hey, God has abandoned you. Or, hey, God cannot be trusted. Or, hey, you are worthless. Or you are alone. I mean, completely alone. Or, you just aren't lovable. Or, you just aren't usable. Or, you have to keep everybody happy, and if you don't, you will be discarded. How many of you can identify with the lies that the enemy tells on top of our wounds? You must keep everybody happy. You will always be second choice. You will never be really worth anything to anybody again. So from the wounds come the lies. And from the lies, then, our flesh began to make agreements that we'll call vows. Here's where it gets interesting. When we begin to interpret our stories through the lies of the enemy, we start making vows of self-protection. It doesn't even come from a sinful place or a bad place. It comes from a place of protection where we begin to make agreements and vows with the lies. And a vow is typically, in DBS we talk about an I will statement and obedience to Jesus, but a vow that agrees with a lie is typically an I will statement that we make in agreement with the lies. They sound, again, here's a few examples. They sound something like this. Well, I will never trust God with my heart again. Or I will never trust men again. Or I will never trust women again. Or I will never trust the church again. Or I will prove to my dad or to my friends or to my family that I am worthy of love. I will prove to my friends that I have what it takes to be part of their group. I will never let anyone be so close to me again that I will hurt like I just hurt. Are you following? Have you ever made those kind of vows? I will prove to them. I will do this. I will do that. And it's based upon the interpretation of the story that the enemy begins to tell us. And so wounds beget lies. And lies, we begin to make vows of I will do this and I will do this because we're living out of this twisted narrative that the enemy tells us. Are you with me? Vows are like plants sprouting from the lie seeds planted in the wounded heart. If a lie has taught me to believe that I'm unlovable and I vow to never let anyone close enough to find out how bad I am, that will then create the stronghold in my life, which will rob me of intimacy and bear unwanted fruit in my life of destruction and despair. Back to John 10:10, do you notice the contrast? The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has come to give life and life more abundantly.